Victoria Gibson is the owner and digital marketing strategist of Sky High Results Online. She helps entrepreneurs, experts, and business owners bring their talents and skills to life online so that they can attract the best clients and make more money than ever before by creating high converting offers that they love. So she's excited to share with you today how to set your sales on fire with a high converting webinar and how to boost your results with Facebook ads. Webinars are on fire right now because I mean, it's one way that you can sell. That is not going to get closed down no matter what happens with the world and with COVID. Webinars are open. So let's jump right in and tell us, what are the most important things that we should understand about why we should have a webinar?
Yeah, well, I guess obviously, given the environment, it's perfect because it's your one-to-many option for attracting leads into your business. But the best part about it is that it's establishing your credibility, connection, and authority. Particularly in times like this, people really want to build more of that trust. So it's a great way to be able to do that from anywhere, which we love. But also you want to be able to have that fine balance of teaching, sharing, giving value, but still sort of engaging your audience enough to bring them in to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to work with you or find out more about working with you. Because I kind of like a webinar where you are teaching a simple kind of framework. You don't want to overwhelm with too much content, but just like a nice sort of framework where it shifts your prospects' thinking to understand, they understand something new that brings them towards like wanting to invest with you, but also they want to know more about you, and they like you, and they're drawn to you, and they want to know more. So I like that it establishes your credibility, your authority, and that trust. And I like just a simple invitation to perhaps get on a call or something like that, rather than, you can do either or, right? You can offer your service or product if it's under a couple of $1,000, or you can actually get your high value clients onto a call from the webinar where you don't sell anything, which is great on the webinar.
So let's talk about getting people to the webinar. What are some of the best, because I think there's two pieces of the webinar puzzle. One is, how do you run your webinar so it converts well? And then the other is, how do you get people on the webinar? And that's the number one question I hear from people when I say, you really should consider having a webinar. They're like, well, who would come on, So what are some recommendations for filling the webinars?
Yeah, well, I think if you already have built up a bit of a social media following, or even if you've got an email list, no matter how small, posting on social media, mailing out to your list. Another great way, if you haven't got a big audience, is to go and find other people who already serve your audience. And offer them the opportunity to host your webinar. Like, a lot of people are always looking for more value for their own audiences. If you're going to provide an offer on the webinar, then you can share and give that partner some commission, and they're more than happy to kind of promote new content to their audience, particularly if they're getting some commission from that. So I think think a bit outside the box. I always, default to paid traffic because you can control it. It's unlimited. Your audience is always generally on Facebook. There's not many that aren't, but if they're not, there's a couple of other options there as well. And, generally running like a Facebook ad to a webinar registration page. The beauty of a webinar, particularly just in one where you're inviting them to apply for a call with you, is that you can pop that on automation too. There's all software now that once you've got a recording that works, I suggest you do it live first for energy, and it's definitely more engaging. And then pop it on automation. You could have an ad to a webinar registration to a high ticket sale in no time. So it depends. If you want to pay for traffic, great. But if you want to dip your toe in the water first, I always suggest, if you haven't done one before, just do one. Even if you've only got a couple of people on, just get your practice in and start feeling natural with it.
Well, and that's so important because you don't want to drive traffic to something that you have never tested before. Like, is your information landing the right way? Are the people enjoying it? Are they engaging with it? Did your offer go well? I think all of that stuff is great to test live and small. And then once okay, this webinar works, then that's the point where you really want to expand and bring more people to it.
Yes. So follow a framework, a proven framework, learn from someone who's done it before, then test it. Just even if nobody's on there, just pretend there is somebody on there, and deliver your best, your best presentation. The first one you do will probably be horrible. Like it takes a little bit of getting used to, and for you to come across natural, as natural as possible, and hit the mark that you set for yourself. It takes sometimes it can take half a dozen times, but once you've got that, you can use it time and time again. So yes, it's a bit of an art form to get used to, but it's definitely not that difficult.
So let's talk about the process of selling on the webinar. So you mentioned there's two options. One is to bring them to a sales conversation. One is to actually sell on the webinar.
Yep.
When do you recommend that they go one direction or the other?
Yeah, I think if you've got, generally presenting the offer on the webinar is when you've had a bit more experience with webinars. You don't really want to kind of roll the dice on that if you've never, well, maybe A, if you've never sold the program before, or B, you haven't done any webinars before. It's unlikely you're going to get it converting very well. And often what happens is then people make that mean their offer is stinks and
no one wants it. Webinars don't work. I tried it doesn't work.
Right. So I suggest if you haven't had a lot of experience with webinars and you've got an offer, a new offer that you'd like to test, then I would suggest, as long as it's over $1,000, $2,000, then I would suggest, and I work with service-based entrepreneurs, so obviously there are going to be some people with other kind of bundles or whatever, but for service-based entrepreneurs, it's a great chance to just invite them to just come on a call. So the only outcome or invitation of the webinar is really all about just going that next step, so that there's a promise of what the call will bring. It's not just a, hey, let's have a call. It's, hey, let's, map out perhaps what challenges you've got in this area and what the next steps could be. And, show up to deliver value on that call. And if it makes sense, potentially they could come on as a client. So usually you can look at it as, have I done the offer before? Have I got experience with webinars? Is my offer over 2K or over a K, like $1,000, I would suggest. But if you've got a proven online offer that's under $2,000 and you haven't used a webinar, and maybe you've used video series, or like I've worked with a lot of clients. One of my clients, she had like a perpetual kind of video series. And I said, well, look, why don't you try let's put it all in one webinar and see how you go. So she was selling something for $97 online, and it was, she was paying for ads, and she was maybe spending about $5,000 a month on ads and taking home another kind of $7 on top. But then we're just doing one webinar where we could put the program up to $497. Then she was able to, hit much higher levels just in one webinar, and then automate that from there. So it's great if you've got a proven offer as well.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on webinar length. What length of webinar is converting well right now? Because I see people still doing like the 90-minute Russell Brunson style webinar, perfect webinar, I think is what he calls it. And then I see other people that are doing these more quick on the go style webinars. What are you seeing that's working the best for your clients?
I always say you've got to do an hour. An hour is generally the best length. It's the amount of time that most people have attention span for. Sometimes going an hour and a half for Q&A at the end is fine. I think if you've got a higher value offer and you're more near the $2,000 mark, then it might be appropriate to go an hour and a half. I used to have a webinar mentor who would sell $5,000 offers on a webinar. The webinar might go for like 2 hours, where he'd sort of have those next 2 to 3 hours where he'd have the next phases. It'd almost be like, okay, we can leave now if you don't want to know this. And then you'd be moving them in. I wouldn't typically probably want to go over an hour, but I also don't really like going under either. I think you need time to deliver value as well, rather than just, hey, this is all about me and, rah, 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 and kind of tease without actually giving any.
I can't stand those.
Yeah, I know, nobody can.
I was on one this week and I was like, okay, you legitimately said you were going to teach me this and now we get done and you have not taught me that, and that's the thing you're selling. Don't tell me that's what you're going to teach me if that's not what you're going to teach me.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with online, and I'm sure you're sharing that with you over the course of these presentations, is that yes, it's a great opportunity, but there's a distinct lack of trust out there because people have been burnt and people aren't living up to expectations. It's easy to put together some high converting copy and promise the world and not deliver on it. So I think it's very important to weigh up, well, what am I going to teach? What I often see happen is a lot of my clients will want to teach a lot. And then, because they're also feeling like they don't want to be that sleazy under deliverer. But in fact, then they are under delivering by overwhelming or confusing the prospect or just leaving them full up so they don't take action. So I think it's finding that nice balance where and you'll know it, you'll feel good at the end of it, and people will give you great feedback and you'll see it in the chat and you go, okay, that was cool. Then sometimes you'll do it and you'll see, okay, maybe not. But also don't be put off if someone in the chat says something like, oh, can you just get to the point? Or can you, like, that's happened to me before as well, like where they're like, oh, well, just get to the thing. And it's kind of like, yeah, this is free training. So if you don't want to be on it, see you later. But, so there's that fine line in that you've got to set up for the invitation, the pull of them wanting something at the end. I mean, we all want to deliver great value and results in advance, but we're in business too, right? So you've got to have that fine line of delivering. And I always like to think if people walk away and even if they don't buy, but they've learned something or they feel really good about your webinar, it's still great value for you and your business.
Yep. And I think that's such a valid point that it's a fine balance. And that's where what you were talking about with testing and practicing and trying and allowing yourself room to not be perfect when you first get started. Because I am the queen of over-informing. And then when I get done, everyone's like, I need 3 months to process everything that you just told me.
Yeah. And I often will critique people's webinars to say, okay, no, take this out, move this. It's good to get someone else's eyes on it because you want to deliver your best and you're thinking, oh, well, I'll give them more information. But or the other thing is like some of my clients might take, one of my clients was she sold a couple of programs at $1,000 on a webinar, and I said, look, hey, why don't we put the bonus down, make it $697? And she did them, and she so did everything to the letter, like very formulaic. And then I'm listening to it, and she just sounded like a robot reading a book or something. And I just said, oh, it's just, I know that's not you, right? You need to be you. You need to be a bit natural. Or another one of my clients was like, well, I've got to write the script out for my webinar. And I'm like, I don't want you to have a script because that is so boring. Nobody wants to listen to that. So there's that balance. If I'm left to my own devices, as people can probably hear now, I ramble on and on and on. So I need their slides, right, to keep me on track. But you've got to have a bit of naturalness as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, and we had a question that is, what is the framework? So the framework, and there are different frameworks, and I'm sure that you have your own framework as well. But the framework it's that structure that keeps you moving on track and helps you be able to touch on all of those different points that you need to touch on so that at the end, they feel ready to make a decision and ready to move forward with you.
Yeah, so I think pick one element of what you're known for. Don't try and go for the whole enchilada, so to speak. Pick one part and go deep. So go narrow and go deep. Have some steps that you can teach. Just pose the problem. So a lot of people make the mistake, they get on and tell all their story. Yes, you can tell your story, but you don't want to do that straight away. You want to make sure you capture the attention in the beginning. Make sure you're very clear about what the outcome of the webinar is. And if you're just inviting to a sale, you can just say, hey, look, relax, nothing's for sale here. I'm just here to show up, give you some information, answer your questions. Simple, outcome promise. Go to a bit of your story, how you uncovered the framework, then your repeatable steps for the framework, and illustrate those just like a watch and maybe a case study or a real life example, and mix in a lot of testimonials, as many testimonials as you can. If they're just of you and your achievements, that's fine. Then talk about the problem again, so they're back in the state of understanding the cost of staying where they are if they don't get the problem solved. Then open the door and give a bit of a time-based incentive too. Like if, I've only got five sessions because it's personal time with me, or, you're going to get this in the next 15 minutes. So those kind of things generally work.
Awesome. So much great information here. How can our audience get in touch with you and learn more?
Yes, well, I've got a little freebie for them, an ad swipe of some good performing webinar ads. So victoriagibson.com/ad swipe. I also have a free group on Facebook called Connect and Convert that you can request to join, and a podcast too if you just search Victoria Gibson on or wherever you listen to podcasts. So yeah,
Awesome.
happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. We really appreciate your time and great usable tips. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. No worries. Thank you. Bye.